Good morning, people. Good morning, friends. Nice to see you. Unholy Toledo here. Hopefully, you're joined by your dogs today. Everybody has dogs. Maybe Douglas Boyle doesn't have dogs. But anyway, welcome to Saturday Baseball. What are we going to talk about today? Well, how could we not talk about the first female general manager in baseball, right? I have to cover that since I'm a female and it goes without saying, right? I mean, this lady has been in baseball for she was an intern to start out and 30 years ago. So she's literally got a resume that, I mean, if you look past the fact that she's a woman, she probably would have been hired as a general manager years ago. But my point is just that she can do the job. There's no doubt about it. She was an assistant general manager starting in 1998 with the Yankees. And just from there, she's worked with the White Sox. She's worked with the Dodgers. She's worked for MLB. She's been assistant general manager twice. And she was with the White Sox for 7 years. She started with the White Sox as an intern, like I said. She spent 13 years as an assistant general manager, first with the Yankees before leaving in 2002. And then she worked for the Dodgers. And the thing is, like, she has 3 World Series championships. The Yankees did excellent while she was there. And of course, she's working now as the general manager of the Marlins. And she rejoins Derek Jeter, who was playing when she was with the Yankees. So they obviously have a history. And Ned Colletti was on MLB TV talking about her experience and how much he trusted her and liked her. And just everybody that's been talking about her has had nothing but great things to say about her. And it's just I love the fact that MLB is the first sports league in the country to put a woman as a general manager of a team. That's really exciting. I think MLB is doing rather well with both race and gender. I know Douglas is here. Good morning, Douglas. And you had mentioned the other day in the chat room that baseball has a problem with people of color, getting people of color to, I'm not exactly sure, like, I'm not trying to quote you exactly, but it reminded me of last season when Lenny and I were on Sirius. There was a point where this race thing started to get brought up, and I actually looked into it. And there's every year there's an Institute for Diversity and Ethics in Sports, and they do a report every season. And actually, the one for 2020 just came out in August. So I checked it out, and I wanted to, basically, let's finish up with Kim Nink. She's going to be responsible for all kinds of things. Obviously, general managers are in charge of scouting. They're in charge of making trades. They're in charge of negotiating contracts, all kinds of things, and basically running the draft for the team. And the Marlins are in a position right now where they did show promise in 2020, and they kind of like the Tigers, where they didn't get far, but they made the playoffs, and which is a huge uptick from what we expected, and also especially in the National League East, but also just right. Remember when Jeter first bought the team, or he's partners. He didn't buy the team just himself, but he's a partner, and everybody was annoyed at the fact that the Marlins had basically like sold every contract and started from scratch. But Jeter from day one was like, look, this is how we're approaching this. We're going to build we're going to build from scratch. We're going to put together a team, and we're going to get rid of, like, they weren't ready to win in the near future anyway. So I just want to make sure you guys can hear me. Pre-game buffet. Yum, food. Hi, Daniel. Nice to see you too. Unholy Toledo. Leonard is here, of course. Leonard. Nice to see you, Leonard. Anyway, so she is going to be in charge of all kinds of things. It'll be exciting. She's definitely qualified. Bottom line, it's nice to see a woman get the spot, get the job. Women, they say that women have to work harder than men, and in some respects I believe that's true, especially when it comes to positions like the general manager. Like, she had to go above and beyond what any man would have to do to get that job. That's true. And I think that women enter, anybody that's a woman that enters into the industry, the sports industry, is aware of that. And if they're not aware of that and they're not expecting that, then they usually don't last very long. However, in my particular position, I've said this many times, and I mean, I'll say it again. It's almost as if we've overcorrected completely. And if any woman shows the slightest bit of interest in sports, I mean, I don't know if that's true. Like, women, there are plenty of MLB writers that are women. There are plenty of women MLB writers at The Athletic and journalists and stuff. I'm not really sure of the percentage, but I'm like the token woman at Sirius for baseball, fantasy baseball. And I feel like maybe I'm not trying to get away with things that I shouldn't, but I feel like it's almost impossible to cut our show off, because if they do, well, number one, I won the host league this year, so they can't really cut us off. But it's kind of like the token woman. That's all I could say. I do not feel that being a woman has ever held me back in any way in this industry. I mean, maybe my personality is different than most. Like, I expect people to talk, people to say things like she's a woman, or, offer me bad trade offers or whatever. Everybody gets offered bad trade offers, but I think being a woman, it probably is exaggerated a little bit. But you either are prepared for that mentally and you have the type of personality that can deal with it, or you just don't. And so I think that, anyway, everybody's been welcoming to me, and I can only speak from my own personal experience, but nobody's ever treated me like they didn't want me around, or like I was less knowledgeable than the other guys. And so maybe, I don't know if whatever that means, but for the Institute for Diversity and Ethics in Sport, it's at the University of Central Florida. And like I said, every year they come out with a new report on gender and diversity in the workplace, in MLB, in football, in basketball, so on. But Major League Baseball, actually, they did good last year. They had improved from the year before, and they did even better this year, which I was surprised and happy to see. But 39.8% of players are players of color. And over the last 9 years, the first round of the MLB draft has featured 51 Black or African American players out of 289 total selections, which is 17.6%. The central office received an A+ for racial hiring. This is MLB commissioners Rob Manfred's central office. They got a B+ for gender hiring practice, both increases from the 2019 report card. People of color comprise 37.5%, and women compromise. I keep wanting to say the compromise, but they made up 40.1% of the total. So 37.5% are African American or people of color, and women are 40% of the total employees in the commissioner's central office. Of the 6 grades for race at the team level, the only A grade or better was for coaches, because there's 41.8% of coaches are people of color. And the teams received a B for racial hiring at the senior administration level and a B+ at the professional administration level. So the team grade for managers increased from a B to a B+, as now there are 6 managers of color in MLB. And now, of course, the first woman, she won't show up on the report till next year. But I just feel it's important, because I think that the whole narrative is a little bit overblown with this diversity stuff. And I mean, it comes a point where you have to ask yourself, do you want to hire somebody based on the color of their skin? Isn't that racist? Or the sex that they are? Isn't that, sexist, or whatever it is that you guys, or that we call it? in society nowadays. So I don't know. It's just my opinion. Everybody has an opinion. And I do think it's important to give MLB the credit where credit is due, because they've come up with a lot of different diversity initiatives. They've come up with several ways to get people in communities that are, that have less money. A lot of times you see like Bryce Harper, he was basically raised playing baseball. He was traveling around. He even dropped out of high school, but all that traveling around costs money. And so it could potentially leave out players that didn't get an opportunity or couldn't be on the travel team because their parents didn't have the money, so they do have initiatives with young women, and also with people of color, with in communities that are less fortunate, and it's just nice to see. So credit where credit is due. And Kim Ing, congratulations on your new job. I'm sure she'll do great. I'm sure she won't have a problem. Okay, on the other side of that managerial hire, which is wonderful and all good news, we have the Tony La Russa story that, of course, I have to put my opinion in here a little bit about the newfound in February he was arrested for DUI. Apparently, somebody called the police when they saw his car swerving across a bunch of lanes and then hit a sidewalk or hit a curb and got a flat tire. So it was like the person said the car was smoking, whatever. And I think that was caused by the fact that he blew out a tire. And so then he pulled over to the side of the road and he was calling on like a tow truck or AAA or whatever. And the police came and approached him, and oh, what a story. Like, they knew about this. The White Sox knew about this incident before they hired him. He was actually just charged with the DUI the day before he got hired, but the DUI happened months earlier. But with the pandemic, coronavirus, and all of this, there was no court, there was no hearing, and nothing was done about it for quite a few months. So apparently he refused to do the blood alcohol content he refused to do the breathalyzer. I'm sure that stems from the first time that he got a DUI, where he figured out that he didn't, once you take the breathalyzer, it's like you're on record with that amount of alcohol, but I guess you do lose your license for a year automatically if you refuse to blow. So it's not like you just get off scot-free. It's not like that at all. So, of course, he said he had one glass of wine, and he eventually did take a breathalyzer test, but it wasn't until after they got him to jail, and they had to get like a warrant or something to get him to do the breathalyzer. And when he did do the breathalyzer, it was probably an hour or two later, he had a 0.095. Think of it. Now, I mean, if he's drunk off a 0.095 blood alcohol level, then that's a problem in itself. That means your liver is not functioning properly. But who knows if he was like, I mean, it was midnight. It was the middle of the night. He had just gone to dinner with his friends. Of course, he said he had one glass of wine at dinner, but that's, that's neither here nor there. It doesn't really matter. But he's using his, like, he had his ring on, his World Series ring. He's like, look at my ring. He's like, I'm a Hall of Fame person, and buddy, you're just trying to embarrass me. He said at one point that the cop was just trying to embarrass him. So the report states that the police were initially called out to State Road 143 just before midnight on February 24th in response to a call from a concerned onlooker who claimed that they witnessed a vehicle swerving across all the lanes of the roadway before hitting a curb, producing smoke, and coming to a stop in the right southbound lane. The cop smelled alcohol on him. He struggled with his balance. He failed all the portions of the horizontal gait test. He refused to take the breathalyzer. Of course, he's declining to comment. The team's not really commenting. They said that they were aware of the incident and they will make a determination about what to do once the case is once the punishment is handed down from the legal side of it. But it's like, why? I don't know. the fans aren't pleased. And this article I read at The Athletic, and of course, I love to look at the comments on the article. They give you so much insight about what the fans are thinking. And of course, there's so many comments on this one. And for the most part, the comments are like disgusted fans mostly. Even Trevor Bauer came out with a video to give his take on the thing. And the bottom line is, I mean, no matter what, you can't take away from what he's done as a manager in baseball, like as a manager, as a team guy, that he's been pretty useful, effective. Anyway, so he also, one thing that's even like for me, the more important part of La Russa's hiring is that he still hasn't called and talked to the players. Usually when a manager is hired, they call on the phone, they reach out to the players, they talk to them about, what's to be, what each other can expect going forward, so that by the time that they actually meet up in spring, they already have a feel for, the manager's position, and the manager has a feel for the players' attitude and whatever. It's what you do. I remember when Rocco Baldelli, when he first got to the Twins, he immediately called the Twins players, like the most important players. I mean, I don't know if they call everybody, but it showed to the players that this manager was excited and interested to be a part of the team. And I think that it's not good that he hasn't even bothered to call the players, reach out to the players, talk to them about some things. Like he took a stand on the political thing with the kneeling and stuff like that. And, there's been several players on the White Sox that have kneeled. And so there's automatically like a kind of a disconnect between La Russa and some of the players who felt like, that he's going to come in there and he's not going to approve of it. But they're, they immediately take the defense. Like, I don't know. It's just, you can either let the media build the narrative for you with your players, or you can actually reach out to them and talk to them about how you feel and give them firsthand knowledge of how you feel, rather than to let the media and the fans dictate how your players feel about you. And, the comments that you said, I mean, he has changed his tune on the kneeling, which, okay, I mean, he's changed his tune on that. And I'm sure that there are a lot of people out there that don't know that he changed his tune or didn't see that part of it. And it's just, I don't know. The White Sox are starting the season on a bad note. That's all there is to it. They ended the season on a good note. They made it to the playoffs. Abreu won the MVP, which he totally deserved. And how humble is he? Just an awesome guy. So likable, Abreu. Just humble and appreciative. And I don't know, just really likable. Eloy Jimenez, just really likable team. I know that they're making some good moves. They're hiring Giolito's mentor as a pitching coach, which is exciting. But the owner of the White Sox basically made this decision. Who knows if the general manager was on board or not, but the owner was pretty much, that was it. He was doing it. And so I don't know. I think the fans are frustrated right now. So moving on to another team that's kind of the Mets are not in turmoil. The Mets are actually a bright, sunny day compared to most of baseball, financially anyways, because Cohen didn't have to go through all of the financial woes that the rest of the MLB owners did. And so he starts the season like all pumped up. He's fresh. He wants to win a World Series in the next couple years. He's willing to spend money. And, they basically cleared it out. They're, hiring new manager, new Sandy Alderson is like in charge of basically putting the team together, which he had already worked for the Mets for quite a few years, but he didn't really have the power, the ability to make serious decisions with money when the Wilpons were there. And I think just the Mets in general, this is a team that's like excited for any kind of change possible from the Wilpons, who didn't treat their players that great, according to the media, which, can you even trust the media? I'm pretty sure it comes right from the player's mouth. They didn't really do a great job as owners. Okay, so Ahmed Rosario, Lenny sent me this information today, basically says that Ahmed Rosario has taken down all pictures of, all images of the Mets off of his Instagram page. And which is interesting because usually this happens when a player is about to cut ties with the team and go different direction. And the idea is that, they have Andres Jimenez there, also as a shortstop. And Rosario removed all of this Mets stuff, all of the Mets content on his Instagram account right after they put up SNY, which is the Mets TV network here in New York. They posted a graphic. I don't know which social media outlet it was, maybe Instagram, maybe Twitter, whatever. But the graphic had a bunch of players on there, like 8 players. And it had a quote from Steve Cohen, the new owner. And it said, "You build champions, you don't buy them." Okay. And we have a great core on this team. And you look at the picture. Hold on a minute. I got to show you guys this picture. I'm going to share the screen. Okay, this one. Okay. Check it out. Here's the picture, okay? Yo. I see somebody chatting in Facebook. I think that's Leonard. Anyways, it says you build champions, you don't buy them, and we have a great core on this team. And do note that Ahmed Rosario is not in this picture, but Andres Jimenez is in this picture. What the hell? That's crazy. So is he like, okay, you could assume, is he pissed off that he wasn't in the picture, but his competition in there was in the picture? And I will note that last year when Ahmed Rosario was benched quite a bit towards the end of the season to make room for this Andres Jimenez to play shortstop, he was super good about it. Like, he didn't act like a dick or anything. And obviously that didn't really pan out for him, but you know what I mean? Like, what? I don't know. Maybe he's just pissed. He's just pissed. Hi, Bobby. Shaman, nice to see you. Yeah, so they're talking in the chat room about the fact that the White Sox didn't really want La Russa. That's very true. Mr. Reinsdorf wanted him, and that's all that mattered. That's absolutely true. The White Boy Network rules in baseball. Actually, it doesn't. So if you want to say that, you can, because you have that freedom in this country still. But yeah, so Unholy Toledo brings up the Ben Zobrist and his former wife. She removed his pictures from Instagram before their story broke. And it is an ominous sign that something is going on, that, it's a good way to tell, like, and definitely it's a sign of something. Either Ahmed Rosario is pissed off, and it makes sense he would be a little bit left out feeling if he's not in the picture, since he is, he's been with the Mets longer, and he was raised to be the shortstop of the future. And here comes this other cat, and they're like putting him in the pictures, and they're not putting in Rosario. Who wouldn't be feeling a little bit left out, right? A dick, yeah. Okay, Douglas Boyle says he liked Cano. He had a decent 2020. He did. Who do you think the Mets are going to invest in? I really think the Mets need 2 players. They need Bauer and they need Springer. And if they did get those 2, it would cost them like $40 million just for one season. I think they're going to have to pay Bauer quite a bit of money if they want him for one season. But it gets to a point where it's like, how much can a team pay one player in a year without going over the tax threshold, right? Like it's only a couple $100 million. So if you're paying one player a fifth of the total allotted spending, then once you go over that threshold, now you're paying like another $15 million. You know, it's not cheap to go over that threshold. And so, you know, is it really worth it? I don't know, man. There's not very many teams that can afford to pay Bauer for 1 year if he's going to get $40 million. Like I heard them saying that on MLB radio, and I thought nobody can afford $40 million. It's not that they can't afford it. It's just that it's too much of a percentage of the pie to commit to. And for second base, like I'm starting to put together the projections for next year. I'm doing all the spreadsheets and stuff like that right now. And I noticed that, I mean, for position eligibility, right? Players qualify at a position after so many appearances at that spot. And it's going to be interesting. Like what is the, if it's 15 games normally in a normal season, you have to divide that by 3 and say that if a guy plays at a position 5 times in 2020, that he qualifies at that position for 2021. It'll be interesting to see what most people do, but I'm building right now our spreadsheets for the draft guide. I'm building based on 5 games, okay, eligibility. And even though there's quite a few players that qualify at more than one position, the middle infield is once again just super deep. And so that's like immediately what I think of when I see Robinson Cano's name, because I think to myself, like, God, you could get a second base, a middle infielder, a shortstop so late in the draft. I don't know for sure that Cano would be. It depends on where he goes in the draft, of course, but he did have a decent season last year. I'll give you that. Yeah, 5. Okay, 5. Good. I get some agreement with that. 5. You see another 60 game season. Please do. Tell me why. I don't see a 60 game season. I am hoping for a full season. They're saying 100 game season, but Trevor Bauer's 2020 season was a little smoke and mirrors. And like in what way? Because he pitched against teams that were easy to beat. That's fine. But when he faced good teams, he did super well in the playoffs. They faced a decent team. And Bauer still pitched like lights out. And I totally get that it's going to be an asterisk kind of in the mind of a lot of people, probably Bauer even, you know, he's probably not going to be completely satisfied with that Cy Young because it did come in such a short season. Can he do it for a full season? We've never seen him. I mean, I'm the first to admit that Bauer has not ever had an ERA under 4, but one time he did before this season. He's been in baseball for the last, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years. So he's definitely, his track record does not, if you just saw his track record and you asked yourself, like, based on these numbers, what would I think of Bauer as a pitcher for next year? You know, it's just, the numbers aren't there for sure. But I have to say, like, Bauer is, ahead of his time as far as being, using analytics and trying to like drill down to his core skill set and make those work for him. And like, Lenny says that he thinks that 100 game season is more likely, or no season at all. Oh, you people. You're cynical. I know you're cynical. I definitely know you're cynical, dude, and lowballing. But yes, Bobby brings up the fact that the White Sox were the only team that he faced that were a 500 team. And Doug says that Bauer was in the National League Central. The Cards and the Cubs were over 500, but he really didn't face any of them. He faced Detroit a lot, which is odd because he's a National League team. It just, the games fell on days that he didn't. He did face the Cubs one time, I believe, but for the most part, he did face super easy to beat teams. I still am not going to hold. I don't know. The question is, would he have been able to do that against good teams? And I do believe that he would. And yeah, Unholy Toledo says that a 60 game accomplishment is tantamount to a golf score after 7 holes. True. Very true. Or 4. We live on the 4th hole. So, if you actually quit after the 4th hole, it's kind of like that when you're doing well. But Bauer, so another thing that's interesting, let's skip right over to this part in my notes. Eno Saris, a really great baseball guy, baseball mind, attends a lot of the fantasy, whatever, weekends, events, big drafts and stuff like that. Eno is at all of them. And he's super smart when it comes to pitching. And he wrote an article at The Athletic about sticky substances. And he said, he starts it off like, everybody's doing it. A majority of pitchers are using some kind of extra grip substance to get more spin. And The Athletic for this article specifically spoke to 20 different people. They're a mix of hitters, pitchers, and coaches, okay, over the past month. So then he put this article together, which is awesome. It's super it's long and it's involved, and there's all kinds of people involved, like specialists and stuff that he had talked to about the sticky substances, and the fact that basically when he questioned these people in baseball, the majority of them said that at least 75% of pitchers are using some sort of sticky substance to get a better grip on the ball, to get their spin rate up. And of course, Trevor Bauer was the first one to bring this to everybody's attention, as far as I don't know if everybody, but the public, really, because he started calling out the Astros, and he took a lot of shit for that, but it turned out that they were cheating. We don't know for sure about the sticky substance, but bottom line, according to the people in the know in baseball, they're pretty sure that at least 75% of pitchers are using it, if not like 99% of pitchers are using it. At one point over the last couple years, there was an interview that Bauer did where he said that he has been working on trying to increase his spin rate for the last 8 years. Like with Driveline Baseball, every offseason he gets a ton of work. He has done all kinds of experiments with different substances at Driveline, and he knows that, if you get your spin rate up, you automatically will get like 3 more inches of movement. And if you're using sticky substances, it will up the RPM rate from like at least a couple hundred RPMs. Okay. One manager said that it's better than steroids, right? So the fact is, Bauer, okay, he now, all these years, he's been trying to up his spin rate, increase his spin rate, and he really hasn't been that successful without any kind of substance. Well, this past season in 2020, he upped his spin rate. Okay. It's right now he has the highest spin rate of any four-seam fastball in baseball, which is like, whoa, okay. You just got done telling us like a couple years ago that you've been trying for the last 8 years to increase your spin rate, and you haven't been able to do it. And the only thing that does increase the spin rate is something with grippy, like stickiness. So it makes you wonder, like, did Bauer give in too now and he just joined the rest of the crew? And I mean, there's a lot of talk on this article, also a ton of comments on this article. And I love to see what people are saying about it. And it's like, I feel like one of the most, like, I don't know, intriguing comments to me was that, is it really cheating if 99% of pitchers are doing it, are using substance on their hands, then can you really consider it cheating? Because you're not really, you have to use it just to keep up with the rest of the pack. I guess, I don't know. It's still cheating, obviously, like according to the rules, but And another group of commenters mentioned, like, yeah, but sticky. For one, it's hard to enforce this rule because the managers are the ones that have to say something. So it's not like the umpires, are tasked with the job of um, finding out if people are doing this or calling out pitchers that are doing it. They ignore it because the manager has to literally go to the umpire and be like, dude, I see something on his hat, or and so it doesn't ever get enforced. And like, there's timing involved. So if a manager thinks that they can actually retaliate, if it's at a point in the game like the third inning or the second inning, a manager is never going to go out there and be like, hey, dude is cheating, because then the next manager is going to do it to his pitcher. Maybe in the ninth inning you'll see somebody getting called out for it, but it's very rare, and I'm not even really sure what the punishment is for it. Like, in 2018, Bauer did an experiment where he went out on the mound for one of the, he was starting a game, 5 innings or whatever. One of the innings, he actually had substance on his hands, and his spin rate did go up. So that was like his experiment, and he talked about it after the fact, like a year after the fact. But he said that spin rates increased 300 to 400 RPMs, and the higher the velocity of your fastball, the less it's going to affect your the pitch. It's just not, the slower the pitch, the more it affects the spin rate is going to affect the pitch. The fact that he has, though, the highest spin rate on the fastball of any pitcher in baseball is interesting to me, because he himself has admitted that it's impossible to increase it without using some kind of substance. So Eno had an independent pitching lab do some research, and they had a pitcher throw without the substance, and then they had the pitcher throw with pine tar and pelican grip. And the results were basically that, that just what I told you. It's going to increase, it's going to give more movement. But so are games being affected by this issue? Are they being affected actually more than the trash can banging affected baseball? I mean, are they having more of an influence on winning and losing than the cheating? I don't know. I think it's a combination of everything, but this pitcher added 300 RPMs to his fastball and more than 3 inches of movement. So that actually moves a pitcher from 39th on the fastball spin leaderboard to first place. So it can make a huge difference as far as the spin rate goes. And when your spin rate goes up, you can expect your swinging strike rate to go up from average. So it would be like Michael Pineda. This is the example that Eno used. It would be like Michael Pineda's spin rate fastball compared to Bauer's fastball. Okay, like just over the past couple years. The league average spin rate has gone up like slowly over the last few seasons. In 2015, the league average spin rate was 2,238, and in 2020 it was 2,306. So I mean, it's literally it's happening so much that pitchers are loading up their sticky substance like right in front of reporters. They're talking about it like in public, off the record, of course, but they casually talk about it, and everybody kind of like knows what's going on. So also, I found out, this is interesting, infielders and catchers, they're actually putting it on their hands so that when they throw the ball around the infield, they can load up the ball with sticky stuff and then throw it back to the pitcher so that the pitcher doesn't have to do it himself. But some of the commenters were noting that like Clayton Kershaw constantly I guess Clayton Kershaw only wears one hat for the whole season. He never washes it for that one season. And even like in the playoffs, Clayton Kershaw will sew the World Series patch onto that hat because he doesn't change hats the entire season. But like, I have never really looked for this, but you can definitely see, they say you can see on his hat, the substance is, his hat is covered in substance. And the fact that like infielders are actually, have their own stash of grip stuff so that they could get the ball sticky before they give it back to the pitcher. I thought that was very intriguing. But MLB is actually, this was verified in the article. They said that MLB is actually considering developing and distributing their own approved sticky substance so that everybody can use the same substance. But okay, if the MLB substance sucks compared to like Pelican Grip or whatever, I mean, the players aren't going to use MLBs. It's not like just because MLB puts one out that all the players are going to use that one. And then think about that, like it would be how much harder to actually say like, you know, you're using a substance, but that's not the MLB approved substance. So, you know, I mean, there's a lot of issues there. Just because they approve something and distribute it and like pad their pocket with the money that they make off of it, you know, like that's probably the whole intention of MLB to even do this. But the bottom line is it doesn't guarantee that the pitchers are going to use that specific one. So Garrett Cole, apparently every time Garrett Cole throws a pitch, he tucks his hair behind his ear. And so, you know, they say just watch. Just you can pretty much see every pitcher, you know, if you're looking for it, you can see the different habits that they make, the different places that they touch, like their wrist or, you know, the movements that they make. And if they're doing something habitually between every pitch, it kind of, you know, makes sense. But even sunscreen is used, right? Like, how are you going to tell a player that they can't wear sunscreen? So sunscreen, I guess, is a good substitute if that's all you got. One comment brought up the fact that there's a lot of pitchers now that have long hair, like Josh Hader, Kershaw, Cole, even DeGrom had long hair for a while. But it doesn't really fit for DeGrom because after he cut his hair, he won 2 Cy Young. So, I mean, does long hair mean that they're have more place to hide this substance? I mean, I don't think a lot of pitchers are walking around with it on their neck like Michael Pineda tried to do a couple years ago. But, you know, they also say that maybe the hair, growing your hair long, actually like it creates more movement and it distracts batters. I don't know if it's used as like a tactic to distract the batters, but for whatever reason, a lot of pitchers are growing longer hair. I don't know if that has anything to do with anything. But should we legalize something like this and should just say, you know, MLB is willing to make it okay to use as long as they're the ones distributing the product, right? Like it's kind of like the Chief Wahoo. Cleveland Indians, they come out and they say, we're not going to sell any more Chief Wahoo stuff because it's racial, it's, you know, offensive or whatever. And the thing is that they don't want to sell it at games, right? But they will still sell it online. And also they will not give up the patent to Chief Wahoo for anybody else to actually make money off of it if they want to. They're greedy. They're just greedy. And so their actions don't match with the things that they say that they believe in. If they really felt like Chief Wahoo was offensive, then they would stop using the logo altogether. But they're not. They're only half-assed doing it because it makes them look good and people fall for it. They're like, oh, you know, the MLB, they're doing the right thing. They're not doing the right thing. The right thing would be that if you think it's offensive, don't use it, don't sell it, don't make money off of it, and let it go. Like, but that's not what they're doing. And so I feel like MLB has proven over and over and over again, just like most sports, including the NFL is probably the worst offender of all of them, that it's okay to say one thing and act a different way. You know, the domestic violence kind of crap that they, you know, they rarely enforce. And if they do, it's just basically for show. It's not really followed through. And I just feel like MLB is just, most of them, all they care about is the bottom line for the most part. And that's the way it is. But they obviously don't care that much about their players, because if they did, they would have paid them the minimal salary that they deserved last year when all things were shitty and people were losing their jobs, and minor league players can't go play for another team. They can't go play for another league. In the contract with Major League Baseball, the minor leaguers cannot go and play ball for anybody else except for here in the States for MLB. And the fact that nobody wanted to pay them, like the players were coming together to pay the minor leaguers, that's just disgusting, especially since like the whole team would cost like $1 million. to pay all the minor leaguers. These people, they literally have to live with their parents until they get to the majors because they can't afford. God forbid if they have a family that they have to support. You know, these men, they're, I mean, it's, I mean, literally, they can't afford the cost of living. It's like, how do you expect these players to make it to the major leagues? And most of them don't ever make it to the major leagues. But you want to try, right? You want to give yourself that opportunity to make it to the majors. But in the meantime, you basically just get dicked around. And if shit hits the fan, you are screwed because you can't go play for another league and you can't get hired anywhere because nobody wants to hire a temporary guy and put all the effort into training somebody new to do a job that is not, you know, that this person is not going to be at if they have the choice. They're only there because they have to be. So anyway, couple of teams did step up, and I think that was very great. So I will not forget that there were a few teams that did step up, and even the Nationals, like the players had figured out that I don't think they actually meant this as a tactic. I think they did this on accident. But the players got together and said, we're going to pay the minor, we're going to pool a bunch of money, and we're going to pay the minor league players. And that immediately then kicked management in the ass and said, like, okay, we have to pay, or we're like, we can't let our players pay the minor leaguers. So then they decided to put up the money. Okay, let's talk about some free agencies, I think. Some free agent stuff. I mean, I don't have a lot because Lenny completely covers all of this in his daily podcast, which will be back on Monday. And I don't know if Dougie's on tomorrow, but George with Roto Imbeciles will be on at 6:30. Bobby, hopefully you'll do. Bobby's not here. Let's see what the comments were making. Take the Mets. Oh, take the Mets picture down. Okay. Let's see. Stop screen. Okay. There we go. Unholy does live on a golf course. The second hole, if you quit by the second hole, dude, you got problems. But he says when the ball sliced into my yard, they're still in good condition. My neighbor just gave us 2 huge bags of golf balls, and it's like, we don't golf that much, but you can never have too many golf balls, and you never want to have to buy golf balls if you live on a golf course. And so every time we see our home is set back some, so like the 2 condos on either side of us are like right out on the golf course, and ours is like set back a little bit. So we very, very rarely ever get golf balls over there, which is good because, you know, if they're in your yard, that means they could hit your dog, or they could hit your windows or whatever. They could hit Lenny in the head while he's out there in the sun sleeping. Anyway, yes, I forgot that you lived on a golf course. How fun. Okay, a sickie. Okay, never mind, shaman. I'm not going to say that out loud. Yeah, the interesting, one of the rules for this year, the COVID rules, right? They allowed a wet cloth. I don't think they said exactly what it was supposed to be wet with, but they didn't share anything. Basically, they weren't allowed to share anything. I don't know exactly, but Charlie Blackmon hit 400. Douglas Boyle says his impression of pitching as a whole was that it was pretty bad last year. Am I wrong? But if 75% are doing it, shouldn't there be an across-the-board improvement? Well, there is. I mean, strikeouts are higher than they've ever been in baseball. So, and also home runs are up there too. So, like, are the pitchers better than they used to be? I do think that in short spurts they're better, but they're obviously not as they don't have as much stamina, that's for sure. Like, they can't, God forbid, if a guy wants to pitch a full game. What about the fact that Bauer is always healthy? Does that count for something? Because Bauer very rarely ever gets hurt. He is pretty masterful at his ethic, like work ethic, how hard he works, how much he dedicates to the game of baseball, how much he dedicates to getting better as a pitcher, and how bad he wants to win. the mound presence thing. I mean, and it's definitely, he hasn't always had good mound presence. Remember the last day in Cleveland, he just turned around. He was so pissed. He threw a ball over the center field wall. Like, he was pissed off. That was his little tantrum that he was throwing, and it wasn't cute. And so I'm not saying that he always has it under control, but his confidence level and his work ethic speak I mean, to me, it matters. That stuff is not, you can't quantify it with numbers, but it's, nevertheless, it's important. So, gosh, Unholy Toledo, you get 300 golf balls every summer. Holy moly. Oh, you have the only fenced yard. I don't remember that. I didn't really notice that, but now that you say it. Okay. Anyway, as far as can Bauer do it again? Maybe. Yes, I think so. He did it in 2018. I wish I had a game log right now in front of me to see the teams that he faced in 2018, his game log, because before he got hit by that, before Jose Abreu hit him with a line drive in 2018, he was on pace to win the Cy Young, and he has proven that he has the talent inside of him. He's also proven that over a full season, he hasn't been able to do it. Whether or not it's his fault, it's not really his fault that he got hit by Jose Abreu's hit, but until he shows it to me, I'm not going to say that for sure he can do that, although it's definitely not going to come down to, like, can he last the entire season, because the whole offseason he's pitching too. So we know that he has it in him, like, as far as stamina goes. There's no doubt about it. But, God, what was I going to say? I was just going to say something. Yay. That's awesome. Love it. Little Chloe. All right. Where do we think the free agents are going to go? There is a free agent contest. It's a good prize for the winner. It's like, we're just trying to decide right now. I say give cash. Lenny says, let's get him something. So we were talking about giving out like a MLB hoodie of choice, whatever team you want, order it and have it sent to your house. Those are kind of expensive, but they're good to have around. And, we haven't decided yet, but it'll be worth like $50. So it's worth it to fill out this contest. Once you put your answers in, you can't change your answer. There is a deadline. I think Lenny and I were talking about it, but my idea is to just, whenever you turn it in, if you turn it in after players have been signed, then obviously you don't get any credit for that player, but you'll get like 1 point for each player that you match with the proper team. And at the end, the total points wins. So let's say 5 of the 30 players have been already attached to a team before you turn your form in, then we just take those out of the equation and you get points for whoever you correctly match with the team. I also think that maybe it's just a little intimidating because Lenny wants all 30 free agents on there. And it's a ton to do in one sitting, and you can't change it once you turn it in, but nobody's playing. So I don't know why nobody's playing. Either we're not, like, obviously we're not marketing it that much. Lenny wants it to draw in new people. But there's some back-end stuff I can't really figure out how to share it properly, because we only want people to be able to fill it out that are logged in to their Lenny Melnick Fantasy Sports to the website. We want them to log in. And so if I hide the post from those who are not logged in, then I can't share the post on social media, if that makes sense. So I'm having a hard time with that. But either way, for those of you who are watching this or who come to the chat room, why not enter it? It's fun. I don't know. If you have suggestions on how to make it like more accessible, more like, I think that people get overwhelmed with the whole 30 players type thing. You have to do all that in one sitting. That's a problem. Anyway, whatever. I'm blabbing on. If you can't change your answer once you turn it in, then the incentive would be to wait. So, and also, Douglas, I think that people, they have like really short attention span. So, and that's not like, I'm not trying to be rude or anything. It's just the way it is. If they could do some of it at a time, that would be okay. What's the downside of letting them change their mind after they turn it in? Well, I guess it would be, I don't know, in order to like correctly score these things, I'm going to have to go through it every time somebody gets signed. I'm going to have to go through it and see which people have the right answer that day before the person got signed. And I guess I could do that. So do you think I should change it to the ability to change your mind after? I know it's a little complicated, but Douglas will help figure it out. Shaman, what do you think? What would intrigue you to fill it out, Shaman? Unholy Toledo. Call an official deadline. Okay. All right. And should I let people change their mind after they already submit the rules? Because we got to get this thing going. Okay, you have thoughts. We'll talk about it this afternoon or whenever. And I'm going to go ahead and let everybody be on their Saturday way. Lenny says no change. We don't even... Lenny's... I can make him change his mind. Unholy. Okay. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today, you guys. Saturday baseball. We're starting the draft guide. It's exciting. Lenny's going to do the auction values. Let me go ahead and post. I'll post that link in the chat room for those of you who are here. And that being said, enjoy the rest of your day and weekend. We'll see you Monday.